You're watching Traders Morning Setups with Dex the Algo Capitalist. Dex created his Pulse Wave price trigger reports over 2 decades ago, and he's been using them to ride the pulse waves as a full-time trader ever since. Find out more about Dex's reports and sign up for our next webinar to learn how to use them at pulsewavetrading.com.
Good morning. It's good to be back. Sorry, I'm running a little late because for right now, I had to wait for my pain meds to kick in. As you know, I had oral surgery the other day, and my jaw and cheeks are still pretty swollen. Hurts to talk. But now that my pain meds have kicked in, I'm good to go. All right, so here's what we got going on so far. Taking a look at the market, you got the US dollar index up 30 pips, trading at 103.57. The euro is down 28 pips at 108.34. Pound sterling down 57 pips at 126.58. And you have the Aussie down 67 pips at 65.37. I have to say for the last, I guess this is going on 2 weeks now, these 3 currency pairs have been in a sideways channel, trying to determine what they want to be when they grow up, trying to determine what it is they're going to do. Are they going to break out? Are they going to break down? So today appears to be just an expanding of that trading range, so to speak. So we'll see what materializes there. Bitcoin futures up 145, trading at 42,960. Ethereum futures are up 5.5 points at 2304. We have the crude oil futures up 67 cents per barrel at $76.54. Nat gas is unchanged at $2.10. We have gold futures down $4.40 an ounce, trading at $2,063 even. We have silver down 12 cents. Oh, make that 17 cents now, trading at $23 an ounce even. Copper is off a nickel at $3.85. Dow futures up 3 points at 38,285. And we have the E-mini S&P 500 up 14 points at 48.84 half. E-mini NASDAQ 100 up 54.25 points at 17,295 half. Russell up 4.5 at 1960.3. And we have soybean futures down a whopping 15 cents a bushel, trading at $12.07 a bushel. Corn down 3 cents. Oh, make that 4 cents now, trading at $4.44 a barrel. I'm sorry, not a barrel, a bushel. And wheat down 4 cents, trading at $5.90 a bushel. So that's a look at what's going on in the overnight markets and the early opening bell. The Fed paused interest rate hikes again. Google co-founder Larry Page spent $32 million on a private Puerto Rican island in 2018, and investors aren't buying Byron Allen's $14.3 billion bid for Paramount. Tech on trial. Tech CEOs testified in a Senate hearing that turned into the type of fiery debates found on their social media platforms. Executives for Meta, TikTok, X, Snapchat, and Discord were grilled by U.S. lawmakers during a contentious Senate hearing on online child exploitation. The hearing focused on what platforms are doing to keep young users safe and included tense exchanges. The most shocking moment involved Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg. GOP Senator Josh Hawley asked Zuckerberg to apologize to families in attendance whose children were harmed or made unalive from the impacts of social media. Not one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invested so much, Zuckerberg said as he stood and addressed the families. Instagram, which is owned by Meta, came under fire last year over allegations it knowingly has millions of users under the age of 13 on its platform. Meanwhile, TikTok CEO Sao Zishu, who is Singaporean, grew agitated when he was repeatedly questioned by Republican Senator Tom Cotton about his citizenship and whether he has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. One CEO was able to avoid a majority of the fireworks, Linda Yarciano, while Zuckerberg and Xu dealt with an onslaught of questions and accusations. X's Yakuro left the hearing relatively unscathed, even touted that less than 1% of X users in the US are under 18. It's the type of statistic most social media companies would be embarrassed by, as young people are valuable to advertisers. It's also a bit misleading, as 2023 Pew survey found 20% of 13 to 17-year-olds use X. But beyond trying to generate video clips, they can tout to their constituents. Lawmakers sought support from each tech executive for various child safety bills. Two of those, the Earn It Act and the Stop CSAM Act, would enable tech companies to be sued for content on their platforms. There's no commission to go to that can punish you, but there is not one law in the book on online child safety because you oppose everything we do and you can't be sued. Senator Lindsey Graham told the CEOs that has to stop. We've seen Congress take a hard stance on big tech before, only to fall short of delivering actual results. But this time, whether because of bipartisan support or the fact real legislation is in the works, things feel different. The result could be we are actually see some changes. And of course we will. Eventually, the hammer is going to drop. Censorship is going to be on steroids, and freedom of speech will disintegrate into nothing. So say goodbye to your freedom of speech. You will no longer be able to talk about anything. If a law is passed, the social media platforms can be sued for content on their platforms. They're not going after the corporations. No, they're going after speech, freedom of speech, because social media platforms are powerful because it's a digital meeting place. You know how the governments of the world have cracked down on freedom of assembly? Well, they can't do that when you're meeting on a computer screen. And millions of people can come together in one chat area and become of one mind. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the people uniting. They're afraid of the poor classes coming together. Because remember, there are more poor people than there are wealthy people. So if all the poor people come together, it will be a problem for the elite. That's why they have to crack down on free speech and take it away. See, they still want free speech, but only for them. Free speech is for those that are in power, not for the lower classes. You are to do what you're told, when you're told, and how you're told. No rate cuts from the Fed just yet. The Federal Reserve announced another pause in interest rate hikes on Wednesday. Chair Jerome Powell dismissed hopes that a rate cut might come by March, but some are still hopeful. Well, they could always do a repeat of 2000. In 2000, there was an inter-meeting rate cut between January and March. It was unannounced, and it came right in the middle of the trading session. JP Morgan's dark horse CEO candidate, Troy Robar, JP Morgan's new co-CEO of commercial and investment banking, has kept a very low profile at the bank for nearly 20 years. But his success is turning the bank's foreign exchange business around, and his experience managing risk make him a CEO option when Jamie Dimon retires. Commercial real estate is a sinking ship, and lenders want off. A community bank's decision to sell a $401 million portfolio of loans at a 7% discount shows how dire the market is getting. And with $2.1 trillion of debt connected to commercial real estate coming due between now and the end of 2025, it's likely going to ramp up. Again, remember, you will own nothing and be happy. So who's buying the $401 million portfolio? You only have two options. Big business on behalf of the federal government, or the federal government itself. You will own nothing and be happy. So you will be paying your mortgage to BlackRock. You will be paying your rent to BlackRock. Get ready for that. Google co-founder Larry Page bought a Puerto Rican island for $32 million. Records show that Page purchased Cayo Norte, an island east of Puerto Rico, in 2018. He used an LLC that previously identified as his, making it the fifth island we know belongs to Page. Elon Musk is fighting with Delaware after a state judge blocked his $55 billion pay deal. Musk said the people have spoken, and he'll make moves to shift Tesla to be incorporated in Texas. His gripe with Delaware is about more than just his massive compensation package. It's about his ambitions for Tesla and SpaceX too. Meanwhile, Neuralink executive Siobhan Zills, who shares twins with Musk, defended his Tesla pay package. Interesting. The White House AI advisor said legislative discussions about the tech are coming. Ben Buchanan told the White House wants creators of copyrighted content appropriately compensated when it comes to AI. Again, the takeover continues. Media entrepreneur Byron Allen wants to pay Paramount $14.3 billion. Wall Street doesn't think that it's going to happen. Investors don't think it's worth any more than $10 billion. The U.S. economy is tops among rich countries. Well, might as well say companies because it's a corporatocracy, is it not? Outlooks for other G7 nations show slower growth and higher inflation than the U.S. It's also far outperforming the world's second largest economy, China, which is facing several economic headwinds. It's always funny how they want to point out we're better than China, we're better than Russia, we're better than Iran, we're better than this country and that country, and nothing could be further from the truth. And I will prove that to you momentarily. King Griffin sounds off on China. The hedge fund billionaire said any issues cropping up in Taiwan would be catastrophic for the Chinese and American economies. He was also bummed to see Chinese EV maker BYD overtake Tesla. You see the magician tricks here with verbiage? On one hand, the U.S. is doing better than them, and then on the second hand, Chinese EV maker BYD has overtaken Tesla. So which is it? It's a big deal, isn't it? Tesla is the darling company, right? It's like the number one company in the world. $1 trillion, market cap, right? In other news, the White House passes a bill to give parents a boosted child tax credit and business tax relief. Banking turmoil fears return after New York Community Bank Corp stock plunges 38%. We now have more details on what happened with the Alaska Airlines door plug and how Boeing plans to address quality issues. Flexport has laid off 15% of its workers. Inside TikTok's fight against the most powerful music label in the industry and what could happen next. An organic baby food startup, Yummy, has slashed its valuation. What's happening today? Well, we got earnings. We got Meta, Apple, and Amazon all reporting after the bell today. That's going to be a big one. And today marks the start of Black History Month. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Black, I don't know of any country called Black. Do you? I mean, when you see a Chinese man, you know they come from China. When you see a Korean man, you know they come from Korea. When you see a Russian man, they come from Russia. When you see a German man, they come from Germany. Okay, where does Black come from? I don't know a country called Black. I don't know anything called Black. So, proving the point, let's move forward. When we talk about which nation is better than which, it really doesn't matter. What matters is, are the people in your country suffering? And who is suffering more? If we could take a poll of the average citizen in China, since America likes to compare itself to China and say how much better it is than China because it's a constitutional republic, because America is a democratic constitutional republic corporation, and China is a communist country. Ooh, we're better than you. Our people are freer than you. Our people have more rights than you. Maybe 100 years ago, you could say that. Maybe 50 years ago, you may have been able to say that, but you can't say that any longer because they have been chipping away at so-called Americans' freedoms every year. You can't do anything in China without permission from the CCP. You can't do anything in the United States without the permission of the state. Try to do anything. You're going to run into legalities. That's not freedom. That's control. But here's something that you're not going to see in China, but you will see only in America. And that's homelessness in the US. Did you know it's up 48% since 2015? And Americans are being laid off in droves on top of that? And you want to say, oh, we're doing better than China? Really? You call that better than China? Huh. Well, how can anyone out there possibly believe that the US economy is doing well? The number of homeless Americans has risen to the highest level ever recorded. I'll say it again. The number of homeless Americans has risen to the highest level ever recorded. And large companies all over the country are laying off workers in droves. And instead of giving people severance packages, you know what the company is doing? The company is buying your home. Yeah. When you get evicted from your home or foreclosed on your home, the company will come in and buy your home. So now we have corporations buying residential properties all over the country. There's mud in your eye, right? The number of Americans that were laid off in 2023 jumped 98% compared to the year before. And now during the first month of 2024, it feels like we're being hit by a tsunami of layoffs. It literally seems like someone has turned a fire hose on, but the Biden administration continues to insist that unemployment is low and that the outlook for the U.S. economy is positive. Honestly, I don't understand how the Biden administration can say that the outlook for the U.S. economy is positive when the number of Americans that are homeless has been increasing at the fastest pace ever recorded. According to a brand new report that was just released by Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, the number of homeless Americans has increased 48% since 2015. According to a January the 25th report from Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, roughly 650,000 people reported experiencing homelessness in January of 2023, up roughly 12% from the same time a year prior and 48% from 2015. That marks the largest single year increase in the country's unhoused population on record. Harvard researchers said homelessness, long a problem in states such as California and Washington, has also increased in historically more affordable parts of the U.S. Arizona, Ohio, Tennessee, and Texas have seen the largest growth in their unsheltered populations due to rising local housing costs. We can see evidence of this all around the country. Tent cities are popping up like mushrooms in our major cities, and countless Americans are living in their vehicles and RVs. One of the primary reasons why homelessness has been surging so dramatically is because rental costs have soared to unprecedented heights. Rent in the U.S. has steadily climbed since 2001. In analyzing census and real estate data, the Harvard researchers found that half of all U.S. households across income levels spent between 30% and 50% of their monthly pay on housing in 2022, defining them a cost burden. Some 12 million tenants were severely cost burdened that year, meaning they spent more than half their monthly pay on rent and utilities, up 14% from pre pandemic levels. All right. People earning between $45,000 and $74,999 per year took the biggest hit from rising rents. On average, 41% of their paycheck went toward rent and utilities, the Joint Center for Housing Studies said. Now, again, look at that range between 45,000 and 74,999. So you know something's broken when you can't make ends meet and you're making over $70,000 a year. Back in 1980, $75,000 a year, man, you were upper middle class, man. Some people would even look at you as being rich. Tenants should generally allocate no more than 30% of their income toward rent, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. But Joe Biden insists that inflation is low. You don't believe that, right? Hopefully you don't. Sadly, more Americans will soon be hitting the streets because we're witnessing an insane wave of layoffs all over the nation. Right now, it's being reported that Salesforce has decided to conduct another round of layoffs. Salesforce is cutting about 700 employees, the Wall Street Journal reported. The job cuts, which amount to about 1% of its global workforce, follow a series of workforce reductions last year. In 2023, Mark Benioff's company laid off 10% of its total workforce as it grappled with a swarm of activist investors who wanted margins increased faster than planned. And we have just learned that REI will be given the axe to 357 workers. They're laying off those workers mostly in the outdoor retailers' headquarters and distribution centers. In a letter to employees, CEO Eric Arts noted that outdoor specialty retail has experienced 4 quarters of decline, and that trend has been worsening. While REI was able to outperform this for much of last year, he said this trend caught up to the company in the fourth quarter, and difficult conditions are expected in 2024. Difficult conditions are expected in 2024. Well, oh, really? We are in 2024. Who could have seen that coming, right? Well, after their deal with Amazon fell through, iRobot announced that 31% of its staff would be hitting the bricks. Amazon and iRobot, the maker of the popular Roomba vacuum, manually called off their estimated $1.7 billion acquisition deal Monday, citing numerous regulatory hurdles. Immediately after the deal was publicly squashed, iRobot announced it would lay off 31% of its staff and that founder Colin Angle would step down from his role as CEO, citing a focus on profitability, stability, and growth. Glenn Weinstein will serve as interim CEO. Shares of iRobot were down around 9% in noon trading. Following the news, Amazon, which was up about 0.5% in noon trading, will pay iRobot a previously agreed upon $94 million cancellation fee. Google, Microsoft, Levy's, TikTok, Riot Games, eBay, Wayfair, and Macy's are some of the other big names that have also announced layoffs so far in 2024. But no industry is being hit harder than the mainstream media. Journalists across the country burst into flames of panic as bad news for the news business crested and erupted everywhere all at once. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the billionaire publisher of the Los Angeles Times, laid off 20% of his newsroom. Over at Time Magazine, its billionaire owners, Mark and Lynn Benioff, did the same for 15% of their unionized editorial employees. This latest conflagration had ignited at Sports Illustrated the previous week as catastrophic layoffs were dispensed via email to most staffers. Yeah, Business Insider, whose parent company Axel Springer also owns Politico, jettisoned 8% of its staff, while workers at Condé Nast, Forbes, the New York Daily News, and elsewhere walked out to protest forthcoming cuts at their shops. Perhaps if they had not made a habit of blatantly lying to us over and over again during the past several years, they would not have lost all their remaining credibility and they would not have had to lay off so many workers. But even though so much is going wrong with the economy right now, many of the experts continue to tell us that happier times are just around the corner. Not. For example, Ed Yardeni insists that we will soon relive the roaring 20s. He's a veteran market strategist, and he thinks the U.S. economy might be about to relive the roaring 20s. The Yardeni research president said during Friday's episode of Bloomberg's Marion Talks Money podcast that he's expecting a combination of loose post pandemic monetary policy and rapid technological change to drive growth higher over the next decade. Wouldn't it be great if he was actually right? Of course. The truth is that he is just being delusional. Things are bad now, and things are going to get really bad during the second half of 2024 and beyond. If you still have a good job and a warm home to come back to at night, you should be very thankful because more Americans are losing their jobs and losing their homes with each passing day, and the level of economic suffering that we are witnessing is already off the charts. But the U.S. is doing better than China, though. No, it's not. All right, folks, that's been my morning show for today. You know what it is. Click that like button, subscribe, share these videos, comment as you see fit. Remember, the system works if you work the system. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And on that note, I'm out.